Hello, 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 everyone. Welcome to another episode of Sree's daily global COVID-19 show. My name is Sree Sreenivasan, and it's my honor to convene this international conversation around various aspects of COVID-19. This is episode number 205 and 205 days since the lockdown started in New York. We are going to be talking about a very important topic, international students and COVID. International students in the United States and how they're coping. We have three great guests with us. Shyam Sharma is a professor and program director of writing and rhetoric at Stony Brook University. Lin Pang is a graduate student at New York University. And Alice Chen is an undergraduate student at Albany University. They'll be talking to us about life for international students in America, what that's like, what they've learned, what are some of the issues they've dealt with. And did you know there are students, the international students make up more than 5% of all American student goers, college goers in America, 1.1 million international college students in America. So you will meet our guests in just a moment. Hi, everyone. I'm Sree. Thank you so much for being here. I'm the Marshall Loeb Visiting Professor of Digital Innovation at Stony Brook School of Journalism, and we are doing this as part of a class that I teach at Stony Brook University at the School of Journalism, and these are the Stony Brook Journalism episodes. My students are producing multiple episodes in the next few weeks, and they're part of our Digital Innovations in Journalism course. And this episode is produced by Eddie Zhao, Luke Mullen, and Danyi G. You'll meet Eddie in just a few minutes along with our other guests. We are here to talk about international students, and in this particular program, we are live on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube, and on LinkedIn. So if you know anyone who's an international student or someone who is interested in the work and efforts of international students, please tag them right now. Please tell them to watch. They can always watch later if they can't watch with us live. This show has aired more than 200 episodes. In the first 200, we had more than 1 million viewers, 148 million social impressions, 357 guests, 208 of them have been women from 67 cities and 19 countries, including the chief scientist of the World Health Organization. You can find our archives on youtube.com/Sreenet, and you can find us also on Scroll Global and Scroll.in. We're able to do this because of our fabulous sponsors, who we will thank later in the show, and because of our producers, Rose Horowitz at Rose Horowitz 31 on Twitter, and Vandana Menon, Vandana_Menon on Twitter. So we're going to start by talking to one of the students who is an international student and is here with us. She is a student at SUNY Albany in the capital of New York State. And her name is Alice Chen, and we are very grateful to her for being with us here today. Hi, Alice.
Hi.
How are you?
Great.
My first question is, where are you, and how's your family doing through the crisis? I know you're an international student from China, so tell us about your family and also where you are right now.
So right now I'm currently in New York City at Queens, and then I'm actually right now living with my relative. And right now it's basically we got money from government because of unemployment, and then we're having a hard time looking for jobs.
So you're graduated already?
No, I haven't graduated.
Okay. But you're already looking for work and all of that. What year are you in? Why don't we start with that? What year are you in, and what are you studying?
Senior right now. First semester of senior, and then right now I'm studying in business administration. So concentrations of marketing and management. So right now I'm looking for an internship. So it's currently really hard for international to look for internship in United States.
Yeah, it's all virtual now. Are you enrolled now in classes, and are you taking it virtually? Is that what you're doing?
Right now I I'm taking virtual courses, and then as well I'm taking I had a internship, a HR internship that I have been looking for past month.
Okay, and what is it like to take classes virtually?
Virtually, it's kind of very strict this year because professor, it's like it's sort of like chaos because like a lot of things weren't set, and then like professor were forced to learn how to use blackboards. Like they were forced to use Zoom, where like they haven't actually really like barely used them before, so like they have to force themselves to learn.
And that, of course, is problem for everybody. I was teaching this spring at Stony Brook, and we had like 2 days notice, and we all had to learn Zoom. And I found it was difficult for me as a professor and difficult for students as well. Now, you're from China. What part of China are you from?
I'm from Fuzhou.
So tell us what it was like in the spring when you were watching the news out of China, and then you saw that the the when we had the problem come here from Europe and from China and internationally, it came here. There was a lot of backlash against Asians, East Asians, against Chinese and Chinese Americans. Did you feel any of that? And tell us what it was like when you were first tracking it in China while you were here in America.
I was scared and panicked because like I have relatives in China, like my parents, like they are in China, like so like I'm kind of like afraid like something will happen to them, like because you know like there isn't any vaccine, so like once you got it, like you actually like there's a chance that you might die for it.
And that must be so scary, right?
Yeah, it's like at that time everyone's panicked, and then like during that time like it was like kind of like Chinese New Year's, and then like people actually were fine, and then like people were actually having fun and celebrate things, but then like all of a sudden it happens, and then it has like news attack towards China saying that because Asian people were eating bats or wild animals, so it actually caused it happen.
And did you feel any personal? Did anybody say anything to you, or did you experience any racism or anything as a result of all of this?
Not really, but like how will I say it? It's like I felt like people actually somehow like attacks Asian people because of this. Like they sort of using coronavirus as a reason to be racist to us, which is it's something embarrassed because we shouldn't like there's no evidence proving that, saying that we were the one who caused it.
Yeah, this is something that I think a lot of us are struggling with and trying to understand, the kind of xenophobia that has come. And we have also seen that the president has, by calling this the Chinese virus, by calling it the Chinese flu and things like that, it puts way too much emphasis on its origin in China. And we know that the main strain that arrived here in America came from Italy and Europe, not just from China. So that's something that we need to keep in mind as well. So right now, I want to tell everybody, please tag your friends right now. If you know anyone who's interested in international students, is interested in what America is doing with this very significant population and what their future is here, please tag them so they can watch this show. We're live on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and on LinkedIn. And we would love to get your comments and questions. I'm just going to look over here and see if we have any comments that I can show you. Jonathan's watching from the East Village. Hi, Jonathan. Thank you for being here. He's watched 205 episodes in a row. Ashok is watching from Kerala in India. Hi, Ashok. Stefan is watching from Ramsey, New Jersey. Great to see you. Charles Cunnan Carroll is here, who is both a viewer and a sponsor of the show. One of his book is right here on the shelf. It's called The Inventor in You, a step-by-step guide to your first invention. Check that out. Sajid Khan's watching from Ridgefield, New Jersey. We have someone watching from China. Peggy's watching from Taiwan. Kevin's watching from Hong Kong. So nice mix of people from all over the world. Our other producer, Rose, is watching in Connecticut, and she's going to be tweeting. You can find her at Rose Horowitz 31, and we'd love to get more comments and questions. Now I'm going to bring on stage Eddie Zhao, who's one of my students who put this show together, and he's going to ask a couple of questions of Alice, and then we're going to bring on our other guests. So let me have Eddie come on to the show and say hello to everybody. Hi, Eddie.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm doing just fine.
Okay, so tell us about what you, as you were planning the show tonight, what your vision of the show was, and how you found Alice and our other two guests.
Yeah. So I have a lot of friends that are international students themselves, and I had a number of friends that choose to go back to China, go back to where they're from, because of the situation. We're studying online right now in many colleges, so they don't see a purpose of staying here when they could study at home. But I was actually wondering, what about those small amount of those who do choose to actually stay in America and still, no matter studying online or studying with the small amount of the actual in-person classes, how are their life are right now?
Great. So that's how you decided to do that. And thank you for doing this. So I'm going to let you talk to Alice, and then we'll bring our other guests on as well. Thank you very much.
So Alice, so the first question I want to know is, in a short couple of sentences, how would you describe the past couple of months has been for you and your family?
For the past couple months, I live during the panic, because like I'm afraid to go outside by myself, because like you don't know like if there's like other people that might attack you, because they believe that like coronavirus came from China. So as a Asian people, like you're afraid like if you go out like into a diversely place, like people might attack you, and then like it happens, because like I live in Flushing. There's like people like from different race like started to like attack Asian people in subways, and then like there's people get stabbed. Like it has like all of like similar news that it's like all over the place, and then yeah, that's basically.
Because I know I have like a pretty good amount of friends who choose to go back to China or go back to wherever they're from. How does that affected you? Like, did you feel like you should do that as well, or did you feel like it's right to just stay here and see what happens next?
Oh, cause when during last semester when it happened, I was concerning like whether or not I should stay, cause if I go back to China, like there's a chance that I won't be back, and then like I'm in my last year, so like I don't want to like if I go back, then like I might like they won't accept me in, like the school might like kick you out or something, and plus the house rent, like if you like so like there's like the rents are like aren't that expensive, and but then if you compare to the flight ticket, the flight ticket are expensive. It's like it raised like I think.
So I heard there was a really significant raise on the flight ticket back to China and coming back here, right?
Yes. There's less flights, and then it's risky, and then it's like the flight ticket is actually too expensive, because like normally for a flight ticket like it's only like maybe like 5,000, but then like it rises all the way to like 10,000, which is.
So was it like a hard choice for you to say like I'm gonna stay here, or was it like a simple choice to say like no, like this is I have to stay here because this happened?
Like yeah, it's like really hard. Like I decided to stay here because the flight ticket are too expensive, and then even though when I went back I still have to do the quarantine, and then it's just like so much chaos. It's like you have to be in quarantine like when you're like right like when you get out of airport, and then you still have to go back to your city, and I believe you still have to do like maybe.
There's like a quarantine on top of a quarantine.
Yeah, and then you still have to do quarantine at home as well. So like yeah, it's kind of maybe like 30 days. Like you actually have to like be in a quarantine for like 30 days, I believe. And
Okay, I see.
in addition, like for class, like there's time difference. So like you probably need to stay up for like 24 hours for class.
To come to like study with the online class in the States, right?
Yes, because
Okay.
there's 24 hours of time difference.
Okay. So are you studying like with online classes right now as well, or do you have like in-person classes?
I have online class. At the beginning, they were saying that like we must have one in person, but like I think they changed it.
Yeah, I was just gonna bring that up because I heard like about like a month ago there were people saying that the new rules are if you're an international student and you don't have at least one in-person class, there's a chance of your visa being canceled. How did that rumor, or was it the truth or the rumor? How did it affect you?
Well, it was actually true
Was
because
it
of
actually true?
this. Yeah, because of this, that's why I wait, and then when I wait and there's less flight, and then I was like, oh, I couldn't go back. Like,
And then you choose to like just never mind, stay here, right?
yeah, I was like, why not just stay here? Because like, I mean, if you go back, like you don't know like what happened next semester is in person, then you have to come back in as well. So then you have to re-rent your house, and then it's like it's like chaos.
Folks, stepping in, Eddie. Thank you. This is going so well. We have another student who's going to join us right now, and we're delighted to have her perspective. She's a student at NYU, and we are delighted to have her with us. Please let me just remove this banner here, and please say hello to Ling Lin Pang. She's a graduate student at New York University, and she will share her thoughts as well. So let's say hello to Lin. Hi, Lin.
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Great. It's really nice to meet you, Carl.
Thank you for being here. We'll be joined in a few minutes by a professor from Stony Brook University who works a lot with students and international students and will explain some of the policies and procedures and all of that. But for now, I want to continue the conversation that Eddie's having, and he's going to talk right now and talk to Lin as well. So let's let you do that, Eddie. Go ahead.
Okay, so I just felt like it was interesting hearing that the reason Alice chose to do the decision she made. So Lane, what was the main reason that you choose to stay in the state and keep on going on with your education instead of saying going back to China and then do online courses or have a gap year or whatever the choice was?
Well, at first, I'm graduate last semester, so if I choose to go back to China, I will never have a chance to go back here unless I choose to continue my study. So I applied.
Sorry, 1 second, Lin. Can you speak up? Your voice is a little low. We just want to have you speak up. Thank you.
Okay, no problem. So basically, if I choose to go back to China, there's a complicated visa issue will come up. Like my visa is expired if I choose to come back next semester. So I have to stay here basically.
Okay. So how did that affected you? Let's say like you said you graduated last semester. I imagine a lot of friends choose to go back to China. And then even when you enter this new graduate part of the education, you still have many of them who decide to stay in China or just to go back to China. How does that feel? Do you feel like everyone's going back and then you have to stay, and then it's just, how does that feeling?
Yeah, it feels kind of lonely. Like basically all my friends choose to go back to China, and I'm like the only one live here. But it's okay. It gave me a chance to meet new people, so it's okay.
So how does this entire thing? Because I know personally for me, like as I'm making plans, I'm supposed to graduate next year. As I'm making plans, now I always have to consider like with this COVID-19, with this pandemic going on, I don't know what's going to happen next. I don't know what's going to happen to my school next semester. So how does the entire thing change your plan for the future? So, and this is a question for both Ling and for Alice. If you guys are willing to share that.
For me, if this like never happened, I probably could go to graduate school with all my friends. We basically applied the same school, but now it's only me and they are graduate a year later. So it can change my life.
And Alice, would you start on that?
For me, I will probably finish my school, and then I will be going back to China, and then like start looking for an internship. So yeah, then like probably have a stable job right now.
So how do you feel like does this plan have to be changed because of this COVID-19 going on, or does it really then change your life all that much?
It kind of actually changed a bit because of coronavirus. Like some professor decided not to teach certain class. So like like some class is only in fall. So then you might have to wait until next fall in order to take that class.
So that pushed back your chance of graduating early.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. And then when you guys said both of you two chose to stay here to study online or just study in person or whatever the case is, does that idea of not being able to go home, in this case, not being able to go back to China, made you guys just not feel well or anything like that? So if Ling could share her thoughts.
Yeah, it feels kind of lonely because like I haven't been apart with my family for this long time, and I probably not going back for another year until I finish all my my graduate studies. But it's a new experience, and I think I will be okay with that.
Okay, and then Alice, you said you were living with your relatives right now, right?
Yes.
So do you feel like that case of, in this case, not being able to go back really made it a problem for you?
Well, actually, like I felt a little bit lonely as well, cause like you act like you won't be able to go out, like everything like through a message. So like, and plus like a bit sad because like my parents in China have to actually worry about my safety, and they have to actually like worry about my health, like whether or not like I could take care of myself.
Yeah. So was it during that time, like, of what's still going pretty bad right now, but like in the worst time when like everybody's really fearful of like COVID-19, was it just hard or simple, or in case to explain to your parents that you're okay, you're fine, you're not gonna get infected and stuff like that?
Well, it's kind of like hard to explain because like they actually like they haven't like they don't really experience like through like what I'm going through. So what I could do is like I only could like FaceTime my parents every single day, and then like letting them know like what I'm doing like for each day.
And
So
that
like,
was at the same time where many people were thinking that COVID-19, the virus is kind of coming from China or from the Asia and stuff like that. So I'm guessing it was like all those negative factors coming at the same time would be like a tough time to get through.
well, like we don't actually care because like I mean like each person have their freedom to speak. So like whatever they say, like we just don't listen to it. Like we don't have to admit it because like there's actually no proof.
Okay, well, thank you. I don't want to interrupt too much, but we have our other guest here also. We've been listening to a very interesting and important conversation with international students, Alice Chen and Lin from NYU. Alice is at SUNY Albany, and Eddie Zhao, who is my co-host. He's a student at Stony Brook. And now we have our other guest who is joining us, who is going to talk more about from the student perspective, now the administration and faculty perspective. Our guest is Professor Shyam Sharma. Dr. Shyam Sharma is a professor and program director of writing and rhetoric at Stony Brook. He is also a world recognized expert on how universities treat their international students. His books include Writing Support for International Graduate Students, Rethinking education across borders, and how to write and publish effectively, writing support group guidelines. And he has written about how U.S. universities are facilitating the academic transition and success of international students. So please welcome onto the stage with us Dr. Dr. Shyam Sharma. And we're just very grateful to have you here with us. Hello, Professor. How are you?
Hello. A quick little correction. I am the director of the graduate program, not the entire program in writing and rhetoric. There are two undergraduate and graduate units, as you know, and then I am director of the graduate program. But yeah, thank you very much for this quick invitation. And I'm sorry to join late. I was actually in another session organized by the International Academic Programs Office, where they were focusing on how international students read and how they can read faster and better, instead of forever spending a lot of time taking forever to read any piece of reading for their work in the university. So timely. There's so much going on about this situation and so much that affects international students, from health and well-being to reading and writing, to being on campus and not being on campus, to technology and access, to how, as a university, we are able to create the environment that has been completely disrupted, fallen apart, and to reconstruct that environment within the classroom. In fact, at 2:30 today, we had, what a coincidence, we had a faculty training, faculty brown bag session in my department, in which we were talking about how do we help international students transition into American academia during the pandemic. How has the pandemic magnified the normal challenges of international students of academic and social transition? And within the span of a single day, single afternoon, here we are talking about the stresses and the challenges of international students due to COVID, facing that challenge more directly. I would just say that, I'll just highlight the context, and I will ask you to continue to share thoughts and perspectives. If you have any particular questions, I'm happy to answer.
Well, thank you very much, Professor. I think it's important for everyone to understand the context of American universities and international students. 1.1 million international students make up about 5% of the student body, and they're from all over the world. 62 current world leaders studied in America is one of the stats that I saw. And the top countries are China, India, and they send 300,000, 200,000 students a year. The third, I think, is Saudi
350.
Arabia.
China is more like a third of all students from China. Yeah.
Wow. So these numbers are fluctuating, but it just gives you a sense of the sheer volume of the students coming from China and from India and from other countries in Asia, especially. We also have Canadians and Europeans. If you can just help everybody understand that for those who come from English-speaking countries, or where they have English is their first language, they have their own issues when they come here. But the students whose first language isn't English, they have especially harder time adjusting here, because I don't think American universities generally take a lot of time or attention to helping international students as much as they could. Of course, there are international offices, and you were telling us about the writing center and the kind of the work you're doing to help students. But basically, professors expect high standards of everyone. And so I've always been struck by, if you look at our international students coming from all over the world, not only traveling and leaving their families behind and coming here, and then the added pressure of being an international student. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yes, there's actually two ways to look at the language issue, because you raised that issue. One is, yes, there are language barriers for some students more than for other students. And those language barriers can be significant. They can take quite a bit of time, 3 to 5 years to gain full fluency. And more significantly, the language as an academic language as in the cultural, social norms that sit behind language, right? But there's a second way of looking at language that is not simply focusing on language as a phenomenon, language as a barrier, language as a challenge, but language as a manifestation of deeper challenges that the students are facing. So even if a British student comes to America and starts studying economics or law, that student is not likely to really understand, even with the same language. You might actually argue that the British student is speaking better English than we do. But that student, in spite of the English language proficiency, was going to face all of the other barriers. And by the way, vis-a-vis language, if you look at it through the lens of the language, that student may not understand the word quiz, because the Brits don't call it quiz. That student may not understand the context of American law or economics. That student may not understand many of the idioms. Even if you leave language aside, like idioms and terminology and concepts, you will see that the student really doesn't understand the context. The student may not understand the content of the learning as well as the other people do, because they have had some privilege learning that content. And the student may not have the same level of confidence because they don't feel they belong here. It's psychological, and so the two ways of looking at language is, one, to look at language as the focus of our discussion. And the second one is language as a manifestation of deeper other challenges and other dimensions. In the book that you just mentioned, I have this image here that actually paints a picture of what happens when an international student struggles in writing. When you look at the international student writing, you may see that there's a lot of grammatical errors and a lot of language issues. But imagine for a second that you fixed all of them. The British student had no problem, or even the Indian student vis-a-vis, let's say, the Chinese student. But then, this is the dimension where the writing skills, the rhetorical skills, communication skills, and skills for organizing, wording, presenting ideas. That challenge manifests as language. So what you see as language is actually a communicative skill challenge, right? But imagine for a second that student is perfectly good in English and perfectly good in rhetorical communication skills. The student may not have the same level of content familiarity with their domestic counterparts. So what happens then is that this lack of content, lack of preparation in content may manifest in terms of the rhetorical skills and linguistic skills. Then you have this other dimension, which is the context, the social, economic, historical, and so on, professional and academic. Even if you have all of this figured out, then the student has this other dimension of confidence, the affective dimension. So in order to really help that student to use their language effectively, even if it's a British student, you really need to pay attention to multiple dimensions. I created a 5-dimensional picture, but you create a 7-dimensional, 10-dimensional picture. That's how hard it is to go to another country, even if you know the language, to navigate the system of academic conventions and genres, communications and socialization, negotiation and persuasion. Those are the things that gets you. And I don't want to discourage, but that is how complex and entangled it is.
Well, thank you, Professor. And it was amazing how you were doing that backwards, looking at the book. Please hold up the book again so everyone can see the front, the title, and tell us the title again. Can you hold it up?
It is Writing Support for International Graduate Students. Because there's a lot of focus on undergraduate students, I wanted to focus on graduate students. I went to 20 universities in person over the course of 3 years, 2014-17, and collected data from 15 more universities, and I have a total of 35 universities. It is a scale that nearly broke me. And I got really sick at the end of that whole process.
Well, I'm glad you're okay, and thank you for doing all that research. I want to ask Alice and Lynn, as you listen to this conversation, when you left China to come all the way here, how confident were you that you would be able to succeed? What were some of the factors that you thought about when you decided to come here? Let's start with Alice to talk about that, because one of the things that I think Professor Sharma was talking about is that you have students from Canada or from other countries where, not just the language, but also how people talk, right? Like in America, we say brown bag lunch. That doesn't mean
makes no sense
for anybody. Like, what does that mean, brown bag lunch? Like, so things like that. So Alice, how did you adjust? How were you confident that you would do well in America? And how did you do when you encountered strange cultural things?
At the beginning, when I just came to America, I was lack of confidence. Like, I am afraid, like I couldn't caught up with the materials, the content. But as you can see, I'm actually comparing to the Americans. I'm actually really behind. And then every time when there's presentation, American people, I think they're confident, they just speak whatever they want to. And then as a international student, like we need to write down a script before like we present things, and then like when we present things, like you might get nervous, you might get shy, and then like you won't be able to like put your word together. So like it's kind of like actually mess up your grades a bit. Like the professor doesn't really care. Like they don't care like what is the process, but like they only care about the result.
Let's see, Professor, your reaction.
Yes, because so much of the international students' academic transition is process. Like they don't understand a word in an assignment. It stalls them right there, right? They don't understand how to go about finding the sources that they need, where the things are, right? It's like a system that you have not really learned to handle, and you're creating the system as well as navigating it, right? You're not, you're trying to figure so many things out, and it's about the process. As the student, I forgot her name. I can't see her on the screen, but
Alice.
As Alice was saying, it's so much about the process. And if we could pay attention to the process, and when I go for faculty training, when I go for student workshops, when I go for research processes, I always focus on what happens to the student. So in the book itself, there's 48 international students among the 200 people that I interviewed across the country. And I followed through the process of how they learned to read, the process of how they learned to write, the process of how they understood this culture and the system, right? And if faculty could do one gigantic favor, if universities could do one gigantic favor for these students, it would be to understand what it looks like for them, what it feels like to go through that system.
Yeah, no, I think that's really important. I do want to ask you, Professor, do you feel like other countries do a better job with their international students compared
Not
to
yet.
us with our international students?
Not yet. Not yet.
No?
Canada like to brag about it a little bit in their own humble way, but they don't do as good a job as the American university systems do. We are ahead of the curve in that regard, but the other countries may be quickly catching up. We cannot stay complacent because, for example, in numbers, China already has half of international students, like 500,000 international students. Nobody would have imagined or dreamed that would happen only 5 years ago, right? But the systems may be, because of the investment, because of the not only the financial investment, but also the social investment, the interest, the desire to compete in that regard. They may be developing ways to engage students. In the other countries that do a good job, one is Australia. They do a good job, but they pay too much attention to their money. And then that kind of brings the system down every 10 or so years. Canada.
What does that mean?
What it means is that they have a business model they call the international education industry. They are not shy about calling their education industry a completely commercial enterprise, right? And so that commercial enterprise has really had problems because of the scandals in the student recruitment, scandals in the student evaluation, all kinds of things. So I don't look up to the Australian model. I'm still very proud of the American model in terms of quality, service, engagement, support, environment. We should stay very high alert in terms of our maintaining our standard. Right now, we have already pulled the plug on a few things, such as security and the belief that the students are welcome here, and the sense that these students are pursuing something good for the global human good, as well as often by contributing to this country, social and national good right here.
Thank you, Professor. Let's just go to Lynn, who's our graduate student from NYU. Lynn, tell us about your seeing all the news about visas and issues around employment opportunities, H-1Bs. How concerned are you and your friends from China and internationally about the future of coming to study in America?
Okay.
And can you please speak up? Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Yeah. I think the travel ban is still there, and all the new students are not able to apply for the new visa. And I think basically most of them have to defer to next semester. And H-1B is canceling, maybe not canceling, but they're definitely not giving a lot of H-1B visa right now. And I think for maybe last week, they are talking about shorten the grace time when you graduate. We used to have 3 months to stay here, but now I think the new policy said we only have 1 month and we have to leave right away. Basically, that gave us like a little bit less chance to find a new job to stay here, but I think it might be better in the future.
Well, let's hope so. Let's just point out one of the guests on my show, Professor and students, was Jean Guerrero, who wrote this book. It's called Hate Monger, about Stephen Miller, Donald Trump, and the white nationalist agenda. And she talked about the fact that Trump doesn't want immigrants here from Asian countries, or in fact, any immigration if he can help it. He wants lots of Norwegians to come here, but the Norwegians are not coming. So what is your message, Professor Sharma, about the visa issues and all of that? Forget, supporting for students and everything, but just that visa issue. And after that, Eddie's going to take over and I'm going to step out. Go ahead.
Okay, so here's what I think. I think our current president wants to talk a lot about being smart. I think what is really, really smart when it comes to international students is that we go around the world and we harvest talent. If we are smart, we should be really thoughtful about that. Like we cannot scare the future Elon Musks, the future, even Steve Jobs was born of an immigrant family. We cannot really play this game upside down. You can't have it both ways, right? You can't say to a talent pool around the world from which we get the cream of the crop and say, we don't want you here, but then also somehow value smartness, right? And so that it doesn't square for me. The Stephen Miller logic, Donald Trump logic doesn't square. I wish it did. If it did, in the interest of this nation, I might not have much to say, but it doesn't. If that logic worked in its own terms, I'd be like, yeah, okay, all right. Elections have consequences and you won, right? But I can't say that. I don't think it makes sense. I don't think it's in the interest of the nation. I don't think it's in the interest of science and technology. I don't think it's in the interest of humanity. I don't think it's in the interest of American domestic students. There must be more students that come and go. We need to have not only 350,000 students going from America to the rest of the world, we need to engage with the world. We have been leading the world for the last 70 years on our terms for the most part. And how does that work? That is America last. Let's really get smarter than that. I don't get it. I don't oppose it, but I don't get it.
Yeah, I was understanding that, Professor, as you mentioned, how Americans are, at least so far, we're doing pretty well in treating and having international students here. I have a question for you. I was just wondering, with this COVID-19 situation going on, with some of the comments that President Trump has been giving, with some of the, like what the two guests mentioned, some new rules on visa and stuff like that, what will the future be like for international students at American?
Dr. Bhandari just shared, she's one of my favorite scholars in this area. I really, really think that's an important point that she said of the US in terms of academic service. We need to really focus on, in spite of all of the things that we have pointed out that are problematic, COVID, stress, students being isolated, unable to come here, a lack of support, but in some areas. But like I was saying a moment ago, when Dr. Sreenivasan was asking, yes, nobody's doing as good a job as we do. And Dr. Bhandari was just telling us, we do a good job. There are statistics about it. There is, if I were to go write a book about like this, and I talk in this book about how Canada like to claim that they're doing a better job, but there's no evidence. So whether you like or not, when there's evidence that we're doing a good job in terms of student service and student satisfaction, there is some room, and I think we need to build on that. Even during the COVID, there's a lot of things that I've read about that the universities are doing around the country. It's time for someone to write a book about this, which is how have we fared? How have we supported these students? How have we done during this crisis? I think there's a lot of good stories that will come out of this. So we cannot blame the universities for the environment, because they have done the best possible, even during the difficulty of the what you mentioned through the book earlier. Universities need to get credit, and universities need to be supported, and we all need to come together. And students and faculty and researchers must really, put together our resources, ideas, and energies so that we shine. At least the American university is still the city on the hill.
And for our two student guests, you guys are the student that you are actually experiencing what it is like to be an international student in the state, and you guys experience this COVID-19 situation. You guys experience this, like what the professor mentioned, the special situation about the Trump putting some comment on immigrant and stuff like that. So, what were your thoughts on, let's say, like, if to be more clear, to give you another chance to go back and say, do you want to stay in China or do you want to come over here and study America? If there's another chance, what would the choice be? And how did this COVID-19 period change your mind or didn't change your mind, or whatever the situation is? So if Alice want to share her thoughts on that.
So debating, because like I wanted to actually come to America, like to study, because like as an international students, like we learn English since elementary school, but then like because due to our environment, like we won't be able to practice our English. And as you know, like companies in China right now, they're like I think worldwide they believe that like English is number one. Like so then like I wanted to come to America to like improve my English, and then like to gain some experience and like culture difference, like what is it like. But like since after like COVID-19 happens, like I was like maybe I was kind of like regret it, because like because like due to coronavirus right now, like our class are strict, which then it leads us to stressful, because like the professor compares international students English level as a to a normal Americans who actually like speak English since they were childhood. So like for example, like for my class, we have exams, 25 questions for 30 minutes. Like the professor expected you to know, like after you read the question, like you know the answers right away. But as for international students, like we need more time to understand the questions, and then we do eliminate the choice.
So I know both of you mentioned how that your parents are away from you right now. I was wondering, after this pandemic, after this not being able to going back to home, would it be, let's say when you guys have your next generation and you're considering, do you want them to stay in China and study, or do you want them to come to America? Would you consider that to be like, if something similar happens, I don't want my kids to go through the same thing that I'm going on right now. So if Lynn wants to answer that.
I think I might still choose to let my children come here, because it's definitely a unique experience that if you miss, you miss. But after COVID-19, I probably won't let them go to the same path as our international students right now, because I can see my parents worry about my health like every day. Basically, they check daily if I'm still alive. So yeah, I've changed my mind a little bit.
And Alice, do you want to share your thought on that?
I will probably like I might like if it's like COVID-19 like this, I probably won't allow my future child to come to America, even though it's a great experience, because like you worry a lot, and then plus the tuition fee is
There's a high risk.
much expensive. But like, well, I still have to like, but everything has to depend on my future child. Like I respect his or her choice.
Okay, Professor, your thoughts on what you just heard from the students?
I was thinking that two things. One is we are facing two crises at the same time. One is a little less visible. The other one is dominant. The first crisis is what international students have been feeling since 2016, as Dr. Srinivasan brought up earlier, right? That crisis must be addressed. Our audiences, I wish I could respond to some of the comments that I see. As they are pointing out, universities have done their absolute best in terms of countering those and the crisis brought on by an upside down policy. So that's one, right? And that may be one reason why, if I were in a different country today, I might be thinking twice to sending to America. That should not have happened at all. There have been a few voices a few times, even the current president, who said that I want the smart people, the legal people, the what people to come in. But then it doesn't bear out when we actually look at what comes down the pipeline in terms of policy, and making it completely impossible for faculty, the universities to do their work. The second crisis is the COVID-19. The COVID-19 is not going to be permanent, but these other things can be potentially long-lasting and permanent, right? And therefore, I think to reassure students like these who may become parents tomorrow to send their students here and feel that America is a unique place in terms of academic experience, if nothing, is to make sure that we open up a new dimension in the discourse and research and pedagogy and curriculum and programming of international students, which is the human dimension, brought to the foreground by the COVID, but also by the politics. What is that humanizing of international education that we need to do? Which is fundamentally, as a scholar named Simon Marzinson talks about a lot in his research, an Oxford University scholar, and which is to really understand these are global citizens, that they have lost all of their rights and privileges when they leave one country and go to another. There may need to be an international regime in which these are understood like the diplomats. If the diplomats can have a number of privileges so that they don't have to feel constantly out of place wherever they go. International students are also a kind of diplomats. They're more vulnerable than diplomats. They're less resourced than the diplomat, right? They're more knowledgeable than the diplomat. They're young student. And therefore, we might actually need to envision a future 10, 20, 30 years from now, when these students don't have to speak like this about the experience of education in another country, whether that be America or Canada or Australia. But instead, they can say there is a system in place, COVID or not. There's a system in place, economic crisis or not. There's a system in place, political toxic environment or not. There is protection, right? So we also need to think long-term, big picture humanity, because all of us belong to this one network of people, and we must be able to advance global social human good. And universities and countries must be measured by their ability to engage and contribute to that larger human good through science and technology, through opportunities and respect, through courtesy of treating each other's children well. These are our neighbors' children.
Wow. Thank you so much, Professor. I'm going to give each of you a chance to give us a final thought. And before
I shared mine, I'll let the students talk.
No, we definitely want to hear from the students, and also what are things that we should watch for, especially if in a new Trump administration. I would like to hear from you what might be the danger that H-1B visas will be reduced dramatically, as they already have been, and other opportunities. So we'll talk about that. I'm so glad you mentioned Dr. Rajika Bhandari, who is another great expert on international education. We'll have her on our show when she has time. We'd love to bring her on. So this is obviously a very good topic for all of us. So let me just remind everyone what we have coming up on this show tomorrow night. We're going to talk about what's next for New York City. We have Jonathan Borstein is going to be my co-host, and we're going to talk to Andrew Berman, who's the executive director of the Greenwich Village Society for Historic Preservation. New York City has survived a lot, bounced back a lot. Let's see what he is doing in terms of understanding the history of New York and what we can do looking forward. And then on Saturday morning at 9 a.m., we have a return guest, one of the biggest Bollywood stars and movie stars in the world, Manisha Koirala.
She's from my home country as well as from India.
Yeah, you're
from Nepal.
So that is awesome. And Manisha will be here. She is the author of Healed, How Cancer Gave Me a New Life. She joined us on April 11th for episode number 30. That was 177 days ago. And there's just brand new news about a big new series that and film that she's going to be part of. So she'll be talking about that with us on Saturday morning at 9 a.m. So please join us for that. We look forward to having her with us. So that's on Saturday at 9 a.m. So now we'd like to just talk about just a couple of more quick events. Tomorrow from 3 to 5 p.m., I'm hosting this Reinvent Your Job Search, tips for finding and landing your next gig. That's it from 3 to 5 p.m. It's a workshop. It's not a webinar, not a conversation, a workshop. You can see the registration link on your bottom right of that, digimentors.link/job search workshop. This is pinned to the top of my Twitter feed. It's just $10 to attend, and we'd love to have you join us. Please tell your friends. And on October 10th, we are working on Impact Summit 2020. This is a conversation about South Asians and voting, but everybody is welcome. And 4 congressmen and women will be with us, as well as civil rights leaders and others. So you don't want to miss this. And the registration link is on the bottom right, iaimpact.org/summit, iaimpact.org/summit. Let's go to each of our students to talk to us. We'll start with Alice, and tell us your final thoughts, Alice, on what we should be thinking about, and what are you thinking about as an international student?
I'll share my COVID experience, but what I wanted to say is for international students is well, since you're here, so don't regret. I mean, and just watch out, like when you go out, like make sure you wear a mask, and then hopefully you guys will just want everyone to stay healthy, like stay safe.
Well, thank you and good luck. We wish you the very best, Alice. Thank you for joining us, and please stay safe yourself.
Okay, thank you.
And thank you for the advice on masks. Let's go to Lynn.
Okay, so thank you again for inviting me. And I want this whole pandemic thing to pass like as possible. Hope the vaccine will come out soon. And I want maybe all my friends could come back, like so we can go to school together. And that's it. I hope like all stay safe and stay safe, healthy.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Lynn. It was great to have you with us and to bring that graduate student experience as well. Lynn is a graduate student at NYU. Thank you very much, Lynn. Let's go to Eddie, who was helping produce this show and was my great co-host. You did a great job, Eddie.
Thanks. I just feel like it was very, it was interesting just listening to that perspective from a graduate student, from an undergraduate student, and from our professor today. So, and there's a lot of point of view that I wasn't really thinking into today. That idea of how, even they choose to stay, but their friends went home, that made them lonely, and the idea of how their parents are, I guess like 13,000 miles away from them right now. So that idea, I know it's like a really hard time to pass for them. So I really hope this pandemic could get over with it soon.
Great. And Eddie, good job today and good luck to you. And let's go to the professor for his thoughts. Hi, Professor.
Thank you for inviting me. I was not double dipping within the hour between another program and this one, so I would have had a better sense of the context, and I might have contributed a little better to this. But I hope I learned from the students a lot. One of the things that I learned is to feel the emotion in the voices of these students who are far away from home and still struggling and making it, right? And the message in that voice, in that emotional voice that they gave to other students to stay safe, that couldn't be more touching, right? We are in this together. I don't think humanity has ever faced, for a long, long time, faced something together as a human community. And if this hasn't taught us to look at to pull the curtains of our systems and our politics, of our social and cultural norms and expectations, of our power and our dynamics, and see the humanity laid bare, we will never do that in our lifetime. And this, I hope that from scholarship to pedagogy, to programming, to administration, to teaching and learning, to academic service, it is about the humanity at the end of the day. And so if we can see the humanity in a student stuck in a dorm, scared, calling their parent every day, then we can do everything else right.
Wow. Thank you so much, Professor. So grateful to know you. We're on the same campus, but we haven't met yet. And we wish you the very best. And I want everyone who's interested to check out your books. You've written multiple books that can help people understand the landscape of international education. And thank you, Professor Dr. Shyam Sharma of Stony Brook University. Thank you very much and good night. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr.
He was terrific. He said that he was double dipping and didn't contribute as much, but he was terrific and I learned so much. Thank you. That's the end of another episode. Before we go, we have to thank our sponsors and also do what I promised Kimberly Crenshaw, the great Columbia Law School professor who coined the term intersectionality. We said, how can we help Black folks? She said, simply say their names. And we're going to do that in just a minute. And first, we want to just thank our sponsors, including our friend, Dr. Charles Cunnincarroll, for his step-by-step guide to your first invention, The Inventor in You. He's the developer of more than 80 patents at Inventor Charles, Guide to Invention.com. And we also want to thank Muckrack Academy for Fundamentals of Social Media, a free on-demand certification course that they put together with me. Enroll today at mrac.co/social, and you can join more than 4,000 people who have taken the course and gotten their certificates, and it's all free. And we also want to thank our friends at She's on Call, a fabulous medical show hosted by two doctors, Sujana Chandrasekhar and Marina Kurin. You can find it, She's on Call, on Twitter, on Facebook. And a reminder about our workshop tomorrow. You can see the link at the bottom, digimentors.link/job search workshop. And this is 3 to 5 p.m. tomorrow, October 2nd. Now, before we go, we're going to say their names, and I appreciate everyone giving us 2 minutes of their time as we talk about this Time magazine cover by Titus Caffer, incredible, moving painting, including you can see the young mother and her stolen child and the blue glove of the pandemic. On the right is a photograph of young Larcinia Floyd with her son, George. She would die 2 years almost to the day that he would be killed on camera, murdered in the town of Minneapolis, and now they're buried next to each other in Houston. And now I will say their names. These are the names along that black border on Time magazine. Trayvon Martin, Yvette Smith, Eric Garner, Michael Brown, Laquan McDonald, Tanisha Anderson, Akai Gurley, Tamir Rice, Jerame Reed, Natasha McKenna, Eric Harris, Walter Scott, Freddie Gray, William Chapman, Sandra Bland, Darius Stewart, Samuel Dubose, Janet Wilson, Kaylin Rockmore, Alton Sterling, Philando Castile, Joseph Mann, Terrence Crutcher, Chad Robertson, Jordan Edwards, Aaron Bailey, Stefan Clark, Danny Ray Thomas, Antoine Rose, Botham Jean, Tatiana Jefferson, Michael Dean, Ahmad Arbery, Breonna Taylor, and George Floyd. Those, of course, are not all the names. Those are not even all the names after the killing of George Floyd, but we say the names that we can, and occasionally one of our viewers, Rahajan, has put together a much longer and more comprehensive list. Thank you for letting me say those names and for saying those names with me. Some of those names are household names, unfortunately, and some of those names are not household names, also unfortunately. They're all people who had loves, lives, and stories. And whatever the background, whatever the circumstances, no one deserved to die at the hands of police violence. Let's check out our last comments. And Mark says, putting a cap on international visas, Trump wants to put it, is just plain crazy. Think of how many great doctors, architects, and others won't have an opportunity if it passes. And Rajika says, this is why all of America's flagship scholarship programs like Fulbright fall within cultural and educational diplomacy, which is a great point. And Professor Sharma also talked about that. And Anand says, wonderful talk by Professor Shyam Sharma. And Cherry says, wonderful watching in Kerala, India. With that, thank you very much. We'll be back tomorrow, 9 p.m. for another show. We'll talk about the future and past of New York City. Thank you very much, everyone. One last thing, if you want to understand and when we're on and what we're talking about on the show, you can find all our archives on YouTube. Please hit that subscribe button. That's an easy way to know when we're live. And the other thing you can do is very easily, just hold up your phone, and this will give you a very light WhatsApp alert when we are live. This is not a WhatsApp group filled with your racist uncles This is a very light WhatsApp alert when we are live. Thank you very much, everybody, for your attention and time. We're super grateful, and great job by my students. Very proud of them at Stony Brook School of Journalism.